I've used Android phones all my life. From my very first phone, which was an LG, then I changed over to HTC, Samsung, and most recently my Samsung S9. So this is the first time that I'll be moving over to the Apple ecosystem. So let's see how that goes. So I picked up the iPhone 12 with a black case from Apple, which supports MagSafe. And I also have a USB-C power adapter, which, as you know, the new iPhone 12s no longer comes with the bricks. So you will need to either find one of these lying at home or you'll have to buy it separately. So let's unbox this and take a look at what's inside. So this is the iPhone 12, not the mini, not the Pro. This is the iPhone that most people will end up getting with the 6.1-inch screen and the 2-camera setup. Now, let me take it out to the field, use it for a couple of days, and come back to you and let you know how that went. Speed is really not something you need to worry about. The iPhone 12 will be able to take anything that you throw at it, be it going through a couple of different apps, playing very intensive games. The A14 Bionic chip will be able to push you through anything that you need. The screen is really nice. 6.1 inches OLED display. This screen is a big step up compared to the LCD panels that you may have been using on your old phone. Definitely the iPhone 11 or anything prior to the iPhone 10 run using an LCD panel. The blacks are blacker, the colors are very, very saturated, and honestly, you'll want to keep watching videos or movies or just looking at photos.
Try to justify on stage why they got rid of that thing. So solve and justify.
One of the downsides of the screen is the aspect ratio, so kind of the form factor of the screen. It's a little bit wider, which is pretty common across a lot of smartphones nowadays, but when you're watching videos or movies, you'll notice black bars on the side. The one thing that obviously stands out, and it's nothing new, and that's the notch at the top. That notch is a very, very big notch, especially coming over from a lot of Android phones who try to shrink down the notch into whether that's a pinhole, into a under the screen camera, so you won't notice it in a lot of the newer phones, or at least it's not as prominent. The one tangible drawback of the notch, though, is that it does limit how many notifications you can have on the top left side of your screen. On Androids, you can often see all the different notifications and the apps that you have on your phone on the top left corner of the screen. But with iPhones, what you'll have to do is drag down from the top left, look at the notification shade in order to see what notifications that you have. Probably the one thing you lose the most is now the headphone jack, but with the wireless headphones pretty inexpensive nowadays, that might be a trade-off you're willing to take. The battery life has been pretty good so far, where I've been able to squeeze in about 1 day's usage without having to charge the battery. Not too intensive of anything, so I wasn't playing games all day, but definitely using the camera, surfing the internet, and doing text messages throughout the day. If you're like me, upgrading from an older phone like the Samsung S9, which only has a 1-camera setup, you'll notice a very big jump in terms of the iPhone 12, 12 mini, or the 12 Pro, because you're going from a 1-camera setup to a multi-camera setup. So with iPhone 12, here we have 2 cameras, the first one being a normal wide-angle lens, which is the standard, plus there's also a ultra-wide camera, which lets you capture so much more around the frame, and it really makes a difference. I'm going to put up a couple of pictures that I took, a couple of videos that I recorded on the screen so you can tell the difference between a regular wide angle and an ultra wide angle. I think ultimately this is where you're going to notice the biggest difference between the iPhone or whatever phone you're upgrading from. new this year to the iPhone 12 compared to last year's model is that now you can take night photography using both a wide and the ultra wide camera, which hasn't been the case historically. Coming over from an Android phone, the night mode is pretty standard on Android phones. Samsung and Google has had it for a couple of years now, so that's not new news, but it is a very reliable way to capture pictures at night where there's not a lot of bright lighting, and usually on older phones you wouldn't be able to capture nicer photos. On the iPhone 12 Pro model, you'll get a third camera, which is a telephoto, which allows you to zoom in a little bit further optically so that you don't have the digital crop scenario. Usually it's able to capture a little bit better detail further away, but honestly you can use the regular camera, which is a higher quality sensor that lets you take better pictures even if you're zoomed in a little bit compared to the telephoto camera. So my point there is that this two camera setup on the regular iPhone 12 is a good enough deal that will get you through 99% of the scenarios. I think the most important point here is the longevity of iPhones. Apple products usually keep getting updates 5 years into their life cycle, even after the newer models have come out, whereas Androids usually only get updated for 2 to 3 years. Usually Google comes out with a new version every year. It could be another year between the time that Google comes out with the update to when you receive the update. And the bigger problem is usually the manufacturers like Samsung, HTC, LG, maybe they won't even push the update to you because your phone's a little too old. After 2-3 years, they stop support and you're kind of stuck with a phone that no longer even gets security patches, which is a problem, especially when you're thinking of a phone as a long-term investment. If you plan on changing phones every 1-2 years, obviously that's less of a concern, but definitely makes a big difference if you plan on using your phone for a long time. Remember, because there's longevity with the phone, it also retains its value if you ever plan on reselling the phone to someone else. iPhones after 5 years can still probably fetch you about $300-400, whereas Android phones, it's pretty hard to resell after phones no longer get supported with updates. Some apps also just work better with an iPhone. Things like Snapchat, Instagram, you'll notice that even the photo quality comes out a little bit better. And I suspect that's due to the fragmentation of the Android versus Apple ecosystems. With Android, there's just so many different phones that developers can't really create apps that fit everyone perfectly. Whereas with Apple products, because there's only a couple of different iPhones released each year, developers are able to maintain and support their apps and make sure it's more refined. Android is what I like to call kind of unrestricted innovation, where, hey, there's new features coming out from Samsung, from LG. You'll see all of those crazy phones, crazy new features. Apple, on the other hand, is different. They don't come up with the newest features, but anytime they do, it's usually very well thought out. They build it into their ecosystem so that it's airtight, it's simple for people to use. And I think ultimately that's what appeals to the majority of people. They want something easy to use, easy to understand, and not too complicated where there's too many options of customization. Apple intentionally makes the ecosystem really difficult to leave by putting in different products, services, so that you don't want to leave because the quality of life is already there. If you want a phone that just works and works great, I think the iPhone 12 is exactly what you're looking for. The camera, the screen, the form factor, the size, everything about it is just about perfect for a daily driver. So that's why I switched over from an Android to an iPhone 12. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Remember to like and subscribe if you like seeing content like this, and I'll catch you next time.